Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Gourmet Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us, 865-658-5824. Join alongside Tim in Green Bay, here to talk some Packers. We're going to talk a little Super Bowl, get that out of the way, and then obviously it's full-blown off-season mode here on PTA. We're going to kind of recap, review the salary cap situation to set the stage for free agency, and a little more specifically in terms of the timeline here in the offseason. We're going to talk about those restructure possibilities, things like that, and how much money you could actually free up. So hopefully everybody's having an awesome morning. If you would, hit that like button for us on your way in. Tim, good to have you back, bud. You having a good morning here?
Good to be back, man. Yeah, good morning so far. Got the coffee going, so, it's always a good start.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm on my second cup. I usually try to end it at 1 now, but man, we woke up and the head felt like a beach ball. We got up in the 70s. Now we're back down in the 20s. It's the body
getting that Wisconsin weather. There you go.
Man, it's and you never know. Is it the allergies, right? Is it your body reacting to the change in the weather, or did some knucklehead give you a virus, right? So
or is it all of the above and you're really in trouble?
There you go. There you go. I know this. I was in an arena with I don't know how many tens of thousands of people watching that basketball game the other day, so I have a hard time believing it's just a coincidence that I was jamming in there like this, watching the game, and all of a sudden we got some symptoms. So I apologize for the sniffling and the voice sounding even weaker than it normally does. Let's go to the chat real quick. First of all, we got a poll question up. I want to get everybody's take on the halftime show. And listen, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. We're going to dive into salary cap and stuff. You know what we do on this show. We try to keep the casual talk out of it. But I just want to see if I'm losing my damn mind or not. The halftime show for me, and I put a tweet out. I'm like, man, I don't know. I couldn't understand. I could barely hear Kendrick Lamar lyrics, right? And I don't know, the whole choreography and everything was just like, I found myself going, yeah, usually the halftime show in Super Bowl is like, hey, you got to watch this, right? It's going to be historic. You think of Michael Jackson, right? You think of Prince and, doing Purple Rain in the rain. Oh my God, absolutely crushing. One of my favorite was Bruno Mars. People will probably roast me in the chat. I don't care. I think Bruno's one of the most talented people on the face of the planet. This was just one I'm like, this is the best we had, right? Unbelievable. So, I put a couple tweets up, actually one tweet up like, yeah, this is kind of cheeks, And next thing I know, I'm getting DM'd that I'm a racist, Tim. So I was informed last night I'm a racist for not liking the halftime show. It's kind of cool, right? You find that out. It's kind of shocking when you find that out just on a random Sunday. You know what I mean?
That's kind of crazy, right? An opinion makes you racist. I don't get it. I don't know how that works.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And I'm like, why are you following me if I'm a racist? Like, what? I'm confused here. That's like the whole Nazi talk. People throw that term around a lot, and it's like, but you're still following along. This is weird. That's really strange. You're interviewing. So Turtle says Clayton for the 2026 halftime show. But I'll tell you what, man, I try not to be too critical of musicians because I am not coordinated at all when it comes to playing instruments. And boy, you do not want to hear this voice trying to sing. I promise you that, man. So John Kuhn evidently agreed. I was cracking up at this tweet he put out, halftime show, showed somebody dozing off. But yeah, put the poll question up to see what everybody's thinking there in that regard, because Kendrick Lamar evidently has a huge following, right? I said, did you enjoy the Super Bowl halftime show with Kendrick Lamar? 83% said no, 17% said yes. So listen, if you're a yes, man, hey, that's awesome. Glad you enjoyed it. I'm just simply saying, Tim, I don't care who the artist is. If you can't hear what they're saying, if you're not familiar with their song, and when you hear oh yeah, that's right, yeah, and you can sing along, cool. Like somebody said online last night, the whole point is for people to be able to kind of sing along with it, right, at the halftime show. So it's kind of weird how they did the setup. But I did see a couple camera shots in the crowd, and yeah, for every one person standing, there was about 20 sitting down. Like, what the hell's going on right now? I don't even know what this is. So anyway, you got anything to say on the halftime show? I know you're an old hip hop guy like me growing up in the 90s. We were absolutely just freaking spoiled with the Pacs and the Biggies and everyone in between. But what'd you think of the halftime show, man?
I oof, I got to be careful here. It was a show that happened at halftime and featured a West Coast American rapper and had a guest appearance from Sam Jackson.
Mhm.
And it was entertainment. Are those all facts? Yeah, those
are
are
facts. Those are facts, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to leave my opinion out of it. I don't want to get called a racist. So I'll leave that one alone.
Tim, these waters are lonely out here, man. You can come join me. You can come be a racist too. That's absolutely wild, man.
Oh,
2 hours before the game, I'm talking about, man, nobody will ever beat Michael Jackson or Prince's halftime show. And next thing you know, I'm a racist because I didn't like it. But anyway, let's move it along. GBP Daily, our good buddy Rob Westerman over there put this tweet out, and this is what it's all about, Tim. And still, the Green Bay Packers are the only team in pro football history to win back-to-back-to-back championships, and they've done it twice. Obviously, Curly Lambeau did it, and then Vince Lombardi came in and did it, winning the first 2 Super Bowls and obviously the NFL championship the year before. I know there's a portion of people out there that say it don't count because they're not all 3 Super Bowls. Again, nobody's saying they're the only team in history to win back-to-back-to-back Super Bowls. They're saying back-to-back-to-back championships. So I just think it's awesome that nobody's been able to do that, man. Obviously,
in the words of Kendrick Lamar, they not like us.
Hey, there we go. Now we're incorporating it. So pretty cool. The Packers are still undefeated in that regard, man. No doubt. And let's see here. This was interesting, man. The refs have been a big conversation all year long. J.J. Watt, who I've got a mad amount of respect for, he put a tweet out and said that ref narrative died pretty quick. And, I'd quote tweeted it, but he does understand that this proves the refs catered to the Chiefs all year, right? Like, again, you didn't see the Chiefs getting the calls last night, did you? Now,
Nope.
Why? Why is that? It looks pretty suspicious that all of a sudden the Chiefs don't get the calls after everybody raised the mortal hell and said they were protesting the Super Bowl, which, by the way, from what I understand, the Super Bowl, the average price of the ticket, Tim, dropped significantly this year because they were having a hard time getting rid of all of them. So it is kind of proven people did protest it to a certain extent, right?
Oh, so it was only like $30,000 a ticket
Exactly.
in this year? Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, the whole point that I seen last night was like, these are the Chiefs when they're not catching those breaks. Like, for the first time all year, you seen Patrick Mahomes get smacked in the face and no flag, right? And don't get me wrong, on that particular play, and I know there's a little bit of debate of, well, the ball was already out. That doesn't matter from the best of my knowledge with the rule book. Should have been a flag. But, hey, welcome to everyone else's world, right? So, to me, it just proved that the Chiefs being able to win as many games as they did, the one game that they don't catch all the breaks, all of a sudden they get their asses handed to them on the largest stage, kind of proves our point. But obviously J.J. Watt felt different. I'm excited to turn the page to 2025, though, Tim, so we don't have to talk about the refs anymore this year.
Amen.
Hopefully that rattled the NFL's cage, and that's what it kind of feels like it did, the fact that things got cleaned up in the Super Bowl there.
Yeah, it seemed like it. Saw a bad call that went the Chiefs' way early, and then we saw a makeup call immediately in the first quarter. So two back-to-back drives to kind of cancel each other out type of calls. And then I think after that, old Ronnie boy called, what he thought was a neutral game. And I think you're right. Once you take them out of the equation, which, let's be real, that's where the refs belong. They belong out of the equation. They shouldn't be influencing the outcome of any of these games. The whole purpose of replay and review is to get the call right. If you're not going to get the call right, what is the point? My mantra has always been, if there's any doubt, keep the flag in your pocket. Don't call anything. Let the guys play. And we saw them play last night, man. Philly's defense absolutely dominated in the trenches, in the middle, and on the back end. And to see Pat Mahomes that uncomfortable all day long was something we haven't seen in a while. So, yeah, man, I think you're right, man. Let's move on. Let's leave the refs out of it. And hopefully it was a wake-up call for the league. Let the players play and let the refs be refs and be part of the background, not the spotlight. The players belong in the spotlight, not the refs.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And of course, we had this right here, Kelsey, before the game. It said it's killer Trav time, pointing at the watch as he was walking, I guess, back into the locker room before they were going to come out for the kickoff. You see him. What do you have, 2 catches, Tim? Is that what it was?
I don't know. Hope he's walking in that locker room to look for a barber, get a haircut.
I'm trying to see exactly what his stat line was here real quick because they pretty much erased him from the game plan. Actually, he finished with 4 catches, 39 yards. So most of the night, I want to say they had him limited to 2 catches. Xavier Worthy showed up big time, though. 8 catches for 157 yards, 2 tutters, along with 50 on 8 targets. But, again, you got to kind of see what happens when you're weak in the trenches, man. You know,
I did not have boat race on my bingo card in the Super Bowl. I'll tell you that. I had a feeling that Philly was going to come out strong and maybe have a lead at halftime. And then, kept waiting for that inevitable Kansas City comeback. Felt like the tone was being set for a comeback, and it just never happened. So congrats to the Eagles, man. They fired up the boat, man.
Let's go to the chat. Josh Martin said this game showed that interior D-line is where we need to get. We need to get this offseason, not edge. Pressure up the middle is key. Yeah, I completely agree, Josh. But, the other thing that, as I was watching Twitter kind of blowing up, and talking about defense wins championships, It's true. You got a solid defense, you're going to have an opportunity to win the ball game. But you got to flip that on the other side too and look, okay, why were the Kansas City Chiefs not able to handle that? Right?
Yep.
You better be built in the trenches on the offense as well. And again, I try to look at every game differently and kind of categorize them. Okay, why did the Packers lose this game? What happened? Why did it happen? I try to take that approach. And when we got beat by the Eagles, I didn't feel like it was because we didn't get penetration up the middle, right? I felt like it was we could not control the line of scrimmage when we were on offense. One injury, everything went all to hell when Elton went out, right? It was kind of on the rocks there. Now, when you talk about defensive line, to me, that's the second thing that comes to mind. So I'm right there with you, Josh. I don't want you to think I'm disagreeing with you, but yeah, it's in the trenches, man. It's why just about every mock draft we've done, man, you're looking up and going, okay, there's not a dominant center in this draft class other than Gray Zabel, who has now emerged all of a sudden magically as a center after the Senior Bowl, where he dominated. It sounded like practice all week. But it kind of makes sense with the way the draft lays out that you can get a top-tier interior defensive tackle. So I get that. But, man, just don't let the pendulum swing too far in the other direction where it's, okay, now we just need to build a strong defense like Philly did when you look up on the other side and go, oh, crap, we can't block their solid defense, right? So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just kind of some ideas that were going through my head all night long watching the game unfold, because the key to that game was the same thing that happened to the Packers. They could not block the Philly front. They just couldn't. And you'll notice how the edges played for the most part. They were pressuring in the middle. They were pushing the middle of the pocket, and the edges were kind of playing that containment. Every time that Pat Mahomes tried to fade out, they did a real good job, Tim, playing with leverage on the outside. And what I mean by that is how many times do you see defenders shoot to the inside shoulder of the quarterback, allowing him to scramble out? Last night, you seen those guys staying really, really disciplined and aiming for the outside shoulder to force him back in, then up, back out. That's going to increase your chances of stopping the play. But what do you think about what Josh Martin says here, man, in terms of interior instead of edge?
I agree, but it's not instead of, it's in addition to. You can get better everywhere on defense and be a complete defense. I think one of the things that kind of backs up what you were just talking about is the ability of that Philly defense all damn night long to get pressure without blitzing. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mahomes had nowhere to go, and they barely were sending blitzes. They were able to get home with just 4 repeatedly. Mm-hmm. And, if you look at the way we played last year, we were only able to get home when we were blitzing, so that's a thing that starts at the trenches and kind of, validates your point about, just how poorly the Chiefs O-line played last night. You had guys getting home with 0 blitzes. And I don't know, it's kind of a testament to building a solid defense. I thought the Phillies linebackers played well, to your point again, knowing that Mahomes is a guy that's going to step up and out and over and try and run on you, and kind of working that into your approach as a defense to kind of, use your front and your linebackers to create contain, and I think Mahomes had a couple of scrambles. He was able to take off maybe 2 or 3 times, but he didn't beat you with his feet. They weren't able to run the ball. Kansas City was not really able to generate a run game at all. which was kind of surprising to me. And that's kind of what collapsed their offense as a whole. So definitely the trenches is where it's at. The only thing I would disagree with in that comment is defensive line instead of edge. I think it's both. I think you want to beef up your edge and your D line.
Got it. Patrick in the chat, thanks for all you do. Hey, thank you, Patrick. Appreciate you swinging through, man. We've had a blast talking ball with everybody this year, and I'm looking forward to many, many, many years to come if the good Lord blesses us with it. It's been a blast. It's been one of the more enjoyable football seasons I've ever got to experience because we've got to experience it with a lot of awesome people, no doubt. Artie Ironminer says, Packers lost to the Eagles doesn't look so bad now. Chiefs had zero answers for the Eagles. Boat race, defense, win championships. And like someone else said here, I think it was Ron Sample, said 0 blitzes for the Eagles, only sent 4. That's the key. If you can drop 7 into coverage, you get pressure with 4, you're good to go. I mean, when you look at the Packers and how they improved this year, there was at one point you were simulating a lot of pressure and dropping those guys out. And all of a sudden you look up and we're like, damn, we're a legit top 10 defense, right? You were showing this illusion that you were blitzing and you would run fire zone blitzes. So even though you might be blitzing a backer, you've got an edge. Most of the time it was Kingsley and Igbare dropping into coverage, right? Getting pressure with 4 is the key. There's no doubt about it, man. It's just easier said than done. Ron Sample says, interesting that the top quarterback in the league can't produce with constant pressure in his face and no quick separation by the receivers. Some said Jordan wasn't the one for that same exact thing. Such a good point, Ron. The only thing I would push back a little bit on is the 3 interceptions from Jordan. But, again, you look at the box score, you go, that's horrible. But you go watch the game, and 2 of those interceptions, one was a player stumble coming out of his break. The other one was the Eagles were shutting everything down, and he took a shot, right? Yep. Good throw. Defender just made a hell of a play. So it's not like, like Pat Mahomes. I know everybody was ranting and raving over Cooper DeJean. There ain't a DB in the league that couldn't intercept that ball. Pat Mahomes threw it right to him. To me, it looked like a miscommunication between him and the receiver, and DeJean was just lurking underneath. So I know we made it sound like – now listen to return. Boy, watching DeJean on returns, Tim, that boy's quick.
Scary. Yep.
Man, yeah, he is just so – Keyshawn Nixon, one of the best kick returners to do it in a long time. Keyshawn Nixon does not have the athletic ability that Cooper DeJean has, in my opinion. It's just what made Keyshawn so good at returning kicks and returning punts was it was mainly kicks. He's kind of fearless, right? Like he's not worried about that way you full speed into the problem with that is go back and watch the Eagles tape. It finally caught up to us, right? So pros and cons there. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. Josh Martin says, seen reports yesterday that Tay is telling people he wants to play on the West Coast again. Also, that the Jets are looking to trade Tay instead of releasing him. Yeah, Tim, some news that broke yesterday. I'm pretty sure it's legit. The Jets have informed Aaron Rodgers they're going to move on. So, to me, that means Tay will not be there either. And obviously, it's no surprise with a $30-something million cap hit, and it was pretty much all salary, which means if they cut him, they free up a large majority of that money. And there were some rumors that like the Rams might be interested. The 49ers may be, the Chargers may be, teams like that. Green Bay was thrown in that mix as well. Anything changed on your front here with Tay? We should find out soon enough as roster cuts and things will start falling into place, I would imagine.
I mean, I don't know how we even entertain the idea of trading for him.
No.
If he's released, that's different. But if the Jets are going to try and trade him, then we're out, I think,
Definitely. Zacchaeus Earl says, you see what happens when you pick up free agents and utilize trades. Philly made all the necessary moves for a Super Bowl. Green Bay did good by signing Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. Hopefully they sign more. Yeah, I think that Goody is going to feel a lot better about dipping into free agency. But here's the problem I've got with it, Zacchaeus. Like, you don't have an Xavier McKinney out there this year, right? You don't have in my opinion, you don't have a Josh Jacobs sitting there. And what I mean by that is like, we're good at those positions now, right? Everybody feels good about safety. You've got Xavier McKinney. You've got Evan Williams. Kitano Ladapo, minimal snaps, looked like he belonged. There's potential you bring Zane Anderson back. He played pretty strong. I think it's safe to say that Javon Bullard should play in the slot. And maybe if you add a safety, you have the security there or the depth on your roster to keep Javon Bullard in the slot. That way he doesn't have to game plan for 2 different positions. That's a lot to put on a plate for a rookie, right? But yeah, I'm with you, man. If it makes sense. Now, the 2 free agents that come to mind for me, this is just me personally, is let me try to think here. Dahlman, center out of Atlanta. I'm not saying you break the bank for him, but he's hands down the best center on the market, right? And we'll kind of dip into that here in a little bit if we get the chance. Some of the free agents that are out there, but Dahlman at center, I would be okay with. And for me, if you say, Clayton, you got to choose a wide receiver this offseason, all the people that are available for trade, all the people that are available in free agency, I've been very vocal. Chris Godwin will be my guy. That's who I would like to have. On a 3-year deal, that's really a 2. That way, as he approaches 30, because I think he's 28 years old, if I remember correctly, he's a guy who could play multiple positions. He could play wide. He can kick in the slot. We know LaFleur loves those guys to be interchangeable. That's something that really gets just tossed to the wayside, Tim. People just think, up, he's just a slot receiver. Jaden's got to be willing and able to play Z, just like he did at Michigan State, because as that F's moving around, man, all these guys have got to be able to pretty much play every position. It's not just that dude's our slot. So if you mix Chris Godwin in there, and you've got Jaden Reed who can move around a little bit too, I feel like that's, a little bit better approach than maybe going out and trying to get like a Cooper Kupp, which Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel guys, they were the same player last year. They were grading out right about where our receivers graded out, and they both are dealing with injuries big time. So that's why. And Chris Godwin, 6'1", a little bit more size. I think he was 209, as someone said in the chat yesterday. To me, that makes the most sense. I don't know. Anything you want to add there to what Zacchaeus Earl said here in the chat, Tim? See what happens when you pick up free agents, utilize trades. Because Philly did, man. Listen, this is the second time in 7 years they put together a Super Bowl contending team, right? Meaning they've made it to the Super Bowl. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm with you with Godwin. I think Godwin might be the answer if we're out of the mix with Devontae. If they are going to try and trade him, I don't know if we trade with the Jets to get him. And if that's not an option, then you go with a guy like Chris Godwin in free agency. And, one of the things we leave out, we can talk X's and O's and on the field and all of that. We talked about veteran leadership. And Chris Godwin is one of those guys on that free agent list of receivers that provides that stable veteran leadership. He's a good teammate, good locker room guy. I think he fits the mold. He fits the culture here in Green Bay. And that would definitely be my move over some of the other names that are on that list. JB12 in here, Godwin coming off major injury. Yeah, but he's good to go. He was good to go, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the season. So it's not like he's coming out of rehab going into OTAs and things, going into this season. So I don't think it's as big of a concern, but I do agree. I mean, he's a veteran player. He's getting a little bit older. Right. The injuries you got to look at those under a little bit heavier of a microscope when guys start to get up there in their football age. But I'm not overly concerned about the injury with Godwin.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so with Godwin, again, if the Buccaneers had advanced in the playoffs, they said he was tracking to play in the playoffs. So when you say a major injury, he dislocated his ankle, right? They said he was good to go. So, in terms of the information we've got right now, he's good to go. There's not going to be any lingering effects of that dislocated ankle. There were some people that thought he had tore his ACL and done all this other damage because it looked gruesome, right? It's very similar, in my opinion, to like Dak Prescott when he hurt his ankle, right? It's not limited Dak at all, to the best of my knowledge. So, now if you're saying JB12, there's another receiver out there that's equal talent to Chris Godwin, and is not named T. Higgins. The ankle would come into play, no doubt about it. But when we're comparing him to people like Cooper Kupp, injury concerns, Deebo Samuel, injury concerns, you know what I'm saying? If when you say major injury, I guess you just have to specify what you mean by major injury, because again, he was planning on coming back. And you look at his injury history, I want to say he tore an ACL a few years ago, if I remember correctly, but he's played, there's multiple years that he's just played dominant on the field. And again, Tim, you got to take into consideration the age-old conversation. Is it Mike Evans or is it him? In my opinion, Chris Godwin's been doing it so long, it's definitely both. They kind of feed off of each other. So will Chris Godwin be as effective in Green Bay where you don't have someone on the opposite side of him drawing attention away? Who knows? That's the big conversation with T. Higgins as well. So with T, I just get nervous because Goblin's like this, been known as this team guy. He's very, very team oriented. And T. Higgins is one of those dudes who's been kind of vocal and holding out and this and that. I just get a little bit nervous that you go give him a bunch of guaranteed money. And then all of a sudden you're a year in and we got Jair again. We're going, is he really hurt? Is he going to play? Are we going to trade him? It just doesn't. T. Higgins to me doesn't feel like a Goody move, right?
Yeah.
But Chris Godwin kind of does. That's just me. I could be wrong. All right, let's see here. Next comment. Number one Packer fan. I don't understand how it was political, though. I thought it was supposed to represent America, but maybe I'm wrong. I didn't take it that serious. That was the thing with me talking about the halftime show. Again, back to that. I found out later on in the night that, man, these people don't even understand what Kendrick was saying and what he was representing and this and that. I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. He's evidently he was trying to make a political statement, and I was just too stupid to recognize it, and that's why people get so defensive. I'm looking at it for what it is. It's a halftime show. Yeah, I can't understand what he's saying because the sound quality is horrible, and I don't know any of his music, so this is just kind of, let me go grab some more nachos and I'll get back when the game gets back on type of thing. So let's go to the poll question one more time here. As it sits right now, did you enjoy the Super Bowl halftime show with Kendrick Lamar? 74% said no, 26% said yes. All right, Drew D. According to Forbes, viewership was down 3%. So, yeah, they did take a little hit there, Tim. Usually it's up. Every year it's up, right?
Yep.
So it looked like there was some people that got tired of the Chiefs getting all those calls. So that's interesting. J. Cole, not going to lie, I want Myles Garrett now. Myles Garrett.
That's a fair point.
Myles Garrett, of all the edge defenders, man, he's that dude that man, he can really compress a pocket. And he's big enough. I feel like you could kick him into three tech.
I think so too.
But,
especially at this stage of his career.
Right. That's a good point.
Certainly experienced enough that if you wanted to move him, he could probably pull it off.
Yeah, and when we say three tech, what we're essentially saying is, can he handle the interior, right? Basically playing between the guard and the tackle is what you're looking at there, right? And it's much harder for defenses to roll the protection, slide the protection there when you got Rashawn Gary on the opposite side. That's the way I would want to use Myles Garrett. But let me throw this out there, Tim. And again, I don't think we're going to go get Myles Garrett. It could happen. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just it doesn't make sense for Cleveland, and he's going to try to force their hand. I get it. And Cleveland's stupid enough they could do it, but I always try to put myself in that team's shoes, and I'm like, man, all the guaranteed money that's there that they've already mortgaged the future on, you better get hella compensation, and then that comes back to the Packers of, are you willing to give up that type of compensation to make it worth it for the Browns to move on? I would not be willing to give up, a first and a third and whatever else. You know what I mean? Like it's now if you couple Jai in there, if you said your first round pick and Jair Alexander for Myles Garrett, I'd be okay with that if the salary cap hit that you absorb with it sits how we think it sits, which is going to be kind of minimal on the team that's receiving him, because the guaranteed money is just going to accelerate to this offseason with the Browns. And like many people pointed out, the Browns are already way over on the cap, so it's going to be hard to make that work. They're going to have to mortgage the future at other positions to do that. So, but yeah, think about this, Tim. I want to get your take on this. Let's say in a perfect fantasy world here, the Packers were able to land Myles Garrett in a trade. Imagine this: Rashawn Gary on one side, Myles Garrett on the other, right, on the edge, and then you go draft a Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan or whoever Goody thinks is going to be a dominant three tech. Now you got him, Devontae White, and Kenny Clark fighting for playing time. You got Carl Brooks as your fourth best interior defensive lineman. You feel pretty good about that. But man, Myles Garrett, Rashawn Gary on the edge, and then you go get in the first round a solid three tech. You feel a lot better about that. I do, at least. How do you feel about that? Because we talked about possibly playing Myles Garrett on the inside. I think if there's a player in the league that can handle it, he could. But.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I agree with your approach too. Like if you get a guy like that, hypothetically, you go to the draft and you go find a dog to play in the trenches. The problem is we have no idea how rookies are going to play in their first year. Not everybody is Cooper DeJean and comes into the league and plays well right away. Not everybody is Evan Williams for an example. I thought he played really well as a rookie. Let's talk about Edgerrin Cooper. Oh my goodness, that guy doesn't look like a rookie. those guys, you hit on them once or twice or 3 times a year in the draft. You know, a lot of guys, they hit the NFL, they need that first season to get their legs under them and develop. And I just don't know how confident I am that going to the draft that we're just going to find some 3-tech that's just going to dominate the league in his rookie year. There's going to be learning curve. There's going to be bumps in the road. So I think when it comes to edge or, in the middle there, you've got to kind of make your decision. Where are you going to go after that vet, and a guy like Myles Garrett does strengthen up your line, but, we're still developmental in the middle then, because we're adding another rookie to the mix. Like you said, we don't know, really what's going to go on with Kenny, and how much he's going to play. A big thing would be Carl Brooks, a guy like that taking a step, Devontae Wyatt taking another step in the middle there. So I agree with the approach, but I just don't want to get caught up in, we drafted this guy, he's going to be a monster. And then, he's not, and everybody's all pissed off, It's like kind of the same deal. You put your faith in the draft and you get a guy, and if he's not a monster right away out of the gate, everybody's all mad about draft and develop, So I think you got to kind of handle those. You got to kind of juggle those both, and hopefully you find a balance there.
Yeah, definitely. Ron Samble had a question. I want to come back to. I'm going to keep it marked. He said, anyone notice Ja's response to the Packers' happy birthday wish? Any thoughts? So, Ron, let us know where to find that response. I went to Twitter and that tweet that the Packers put out for his birthday. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't see him commenting there. So maybe he did it on IG or something.
I don't think Ja's been on Twitter in the last 2 or 3 years.
So, let us know where to find that, Ron, or just put in the chat what was his response. I'd be interested to see because, again, everything went quiet, right? And we're still at that 50-50, right, Tim? Unless have you changed, Tim?
No, I haven't.
Still 50-50.
I'm still 50-50 on that.
Got it.
But I do like the high school gossip that happens this time of year where we all, generate the rumor mills and we read into things, and I love it.
What did he mean by that winky emoji?
Yeah, what did that mean?
I'll tell you this, man, as much as you roll your eyes at a lot of that stuff, it does get you through the off season pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
With the conversations that are created. Damon Stewart, good to see you, everybody. He says, has there ever been a halftime show that was unanimously loved? No, and that's the point, right? Like, that's what blew me away.
I'm old enough to remember MJ. I think that would be my front runner.
Probably the closest one. That or Prince. Prince was solid, right? Because Prince was one of those dudes that he pushed back against the narrative a little bit. He was going to do what he wanted to do, rather than what do people think he should do. But,
you're talking about Michael Jackson and Prince. I mean, arguably like 2 of the greatest performers of all time in the history of music, period. Yeah. So they're going to have more of that unanimous kind of appeal. I think with Kendrick, he's popular in hip hop, but I don't think, mainstream. He's probably not as, mainstream accepted as some other artists are, regardless of what genre they're in. So I don't know. I think we'd have to say MJ or Prince probably for unanimous decision by America, loving the performance. So I feel like last night, I think people that, they ride with Kendrick, they like that music. They're into that style of hip hop. They loved it. Anyone who's kind of on the outside or, not really into that, they probably didn't enjoy it. Probably went over their heads a little bit.
Gotcha. Ron Samuel says he's going to look that up for us. Thank you so much, Ron. He said he's pretty positive in his opinion. So it sounded like it was a positive response. And I thought it was cool the Packers sent it out there too, right?
Yep.
Which they do that for every player. It's not like if they hadn't done it, we'd be going, whoa, wait a minute.
I mean, we've seen them give birthday tweets and then,
right. That's a good point. Happy birthday. Here's your pink slip. Hell out of here. That's hilarious right there. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. But yeah, I don't think there was anything, over the years that was unanimously loved, but the closest thing to it would probably have been Michael Jackson's. And I'm still, my opinion, Whitney Houston singing the national anthem. No one will ever touch that, I don't think. No. I think she's still the queen of that for sure. Yep. Jason Y said, is Dalman good or great? That's a great question, Jason. I don't know if I would consider him great, right? It depends on what you mean by great. You know what I mean? Like, so if I were to go to PFF right now, and I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'm just going to kind of see where he ranked. I think I can go free agents. Matter of fact, I do have it already over here. Give me just a second. I want to see when you say great, what would you consider great? That's the question, right? Everybody's probably got a different view on what is great and what isn't. Drew Dalman is the 22nd best free agent according to PFF. Okay, now where did he grade out? In 2022, he was the 14th best center. In 2023, he was the 3rd best center. In 2024, he was the 4th best center. So you're talking about a center who's grading out borderline top 3, definitely top 5 in the last 2 years. Is that considered great? I would consider that great, Tim. I mean, that's why it's important to look at the grades across those specific positions, because it's easy to go, wow, this guy's awesome, right? Because he's in the 90s, but then you look up and there's 13 other players that are in the 90s at that position. You go position by position and compare apples to apples. I would say Dalman's been great. Do you disagree with that, Tim? Again, 3rd best center and then 4th best center at an 82.3 and a 78.8.
No, I don't disagree. I'm kind of with Drew D. If you're top 5 2 years running, I think that qualifies.
Yeah. And I love the question, Jason. That's the filter we want to run that stuff through right there, right? Are they good or are they great? We're willing to overpay for great. We're not willing to overpay for good. If it was somebody that was, 12th and 10th and 13th and 9th, I'd be going, probably very good, but not great,
right?
Type thing. So love that conversation. Hugh in the chat says, I love that Janet Jackson. Hey, that Janet Jackson one was, other than I know why some people liked it, but that was a good show, though, until the end. It was like, you didn't need to do that, bub. That was a pretty good halftime show. Why did we have to go that route?
I love how they played it off like it was an accident, as if every single second of a halftime show at the Super Bowl isn't planned and choreographed and scripted. And
let me tell you something. Janet crushed it, but that was some bad acting at the end, acting surprised there. Just saying. Donovan Schilling, could Max handle 3 tech? I don't think could he handle it? Yeah, he could handle it, Donovan. But that's not the type of player he is, in my opinion.
Max Crosby, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that guy's pure edge rusher, man.
Yeah, because he's so – here's the thing. Here's the reason I say that is both him and Myles Garrett are tall. Don't get me wrong. They got that length on them that they can, bend around the edge, and they got reach. And I'm trying to think of who it was. I was talking to someone who was talking about Max and what offensive linemen say about him. He's very awkward to block because of his build, right? But, yeah, I see him strictly as an edge. Now, if you put him at 3 tech, would he have success? He probably would, but I don't think he would have the success he has at edge. Myles Garrett got some meat on the bone. That boy is thick, and he's just solid muscle, and it's just like that's a dude you could see playing a 3. Now, would he want to play it? I don't know, and that would probably come into factor too, Tim, if he's strictly, hey, I want to play edge, and here are my options. If the Browns do say we're going to trade you, and he's willing to adjust that optional aspect of his contract to make that work, that's different, right? And matter of fact, that's right on cue here. Josh Martin said Myles Garrett did say he would do whatever it takes Wise to get traded. Now, you'll hear some of the cap gurus say, nope, it's impossible. When you see that number on those options, on the optional aspect of the contract, that's when you got to take a step back and go, okay, we don't truly understand the stipulations there. That's something that could get – that's what happened with Aaron. That's why everybody was, did they do that when he took that pay cut when he went to the Jets because of that option bonus that they had? They said it was a 1 plus a 2 with the option of a 3 is what that new contract was in Green Bay. What happened? He played 1 year in Green Bay, and they traded him. And they adjusted the contract. So, again, you don't want to get too far into the weeds because we're not on the inside looking at that entire that contract as an entirety. And some people who try to act like experts, they speak just enough or they give themselves a little wiggle room that if they're wrong, they can, well, no, I didn't. It's just going to have to let that one play out. But if he said that and he's willing to work with the contract, that makes it a lot different for sure, Josh, because that makes it a little more appealing for the Browns to trade him, obviously. Right. Although, the Browns want him. There's no doubt about that. But if he's just going to hold out and cause problems, probably best just to move on, It's
kind of what you're saying, like forcing their hand a little bit, right?
And he did it the most respectful way, didn't he, Tim? Like that letter was like, I love Cleveland. Thank you guys for the opportunity. I just feel like I need to move on.
Yep.
That's the way you handle it rather than just letting the media handle it.
And then following it up with these comments, hey, whatever it takes, if I got to restructure, whatever we got to do, we'll figure out the numbers. Just get me the hell out of here, please. Basically.
Yeah, exactly. Was Ron able to run that down? I'm really interested in what Josh said, which it probably ain't nothing, but probably blowing that out of proportion. But I haven't seen him comment in here. So
no, I haven't seen it yet.
If you see it come through, let me know, man. Because I'd like to know exactly. Two Tone said we should try LVN at 3 Tech. I'd be okay with that. Two Tone, that kind of fits his game. Go back and watch the San Francisco game this year, right? And watch how he beat a double team block and threw Christian McCaffrey out of the club to get the sack, right? Yeah. He's one of those quickness, burst, and power, but he doesn't have a wide array of moves, right? That fits more of a 3 Tech, in my opinion, than someone on the edge. You got to do a move, a counter move, whatnot. You want someone who's stout, can hold that. Now, with LVN, if you were going to play him at 3 Tech, and let's say you went another route and got another edge defender and say, okay, we're going to kick LVN to 3 Tech to rotate with Kenny and these guys. He's a pretty good run defender, too, in my opinion. PFF disagrees strongly, but when I watch the tape, I feel like he's very aware of where the back is, where the quarterback is. He plays the game pretty good like that. Put another 10 pounds on him, though, Tim. Beef him up.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, that frame can handle it.
Yeah, we're going to have to get him over to Culver's for some burgers and some curds and some shakes, and then, hit the weight room, bulk up a little. I could see it. Can you imagine if he put on another 10 pounds and we had him in the middle? Oh, my goodness. Yeah,
and again, it's when you do the exit interviews, right, the coaches, they meet with the players and they try to give them, I'm pretty sure it's on the exit interviews, they give them a target weight already for the next year. Now, that probably changes as you get into the offseason. You make different roster moves, but that could have been something that was said, right? Hafley and LaFleur could have said, hey, man, we want you to put on 15, 20 pounds this offseason. Throw it on. Here's your target weight. That's why you start hearing those rumblings when players come back for the offseason program. All of a sudden, they're overweight when they were supposed to get underweight, and that's that's kind of what happened with Sean Ryan last year. Now, Sean Ryan took the criticism in stride and played decent football, I think, to everybody's surprise. So, yeah. Let's see what else we got in here. Anybody else? Yeah, I'm eager to see that too. Coach Lamb brings up a great point. How did Creed Humphrey play last night? I don't think the grades are out yet. I will double check here. Tim, on the surface, it doesn't feel like Creed Humphrey dominated. You know what I mean?
Well, it definitely didn't dominate. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say he played horrible, but there was more than one time I saw him getting, we'll just say ass over tea kettle, getting
right.
Have trouble with Mr. Sweat and the boys up there on that Philly front. Yeah, I think Creed Humphrey had, I'm not going to say the worst game he's ever had, but he certainly wasn't his best performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, the grades aren't out yet, so we'll see a little later. I'm interested to see what they graded him too, for sure. Drew D said, with rumors that the Jets don't want Rodgers back, Rodgers to Minnesota is one step closer. Hey, you're not kidding, Drew.
You don't say that. You don't say that.
First thing that went through my mind, that would complete the entire story of what Brett Favre did, right? You go to the Jets, then you come back to the Vikings, and then obviously, I'm okay with it, Tim, and I'll tell you why. If Rodgers goes to the Vikings, this is what it means. This year, they beat us 2 times, and then next year we win the damn Super Bowl. There you go. Let me ask you that, Tim. Here we go. You ready? Get ready. You have to choose one or the other. All right. That scenario I just laid out for you, if it guaranteed you a Super Bowl next year, would you be willing to sit through this year of Rodgers beating us twice in Minnesota?
A, I still think Rodgers is going to the golf course. B, the only thing that's going to get us a guaranteed Super Bowl is beefing up the trenches and bringing in maybe 1 or 2 more veteran leaders on this team to get us over the hump. But yeah, I mean, hey, we've been through it before. I don't, well, not all of us, shout out to the younger group of the fan base that, hasn't experienced a Super Bowl win and hasn't had to live through, Brett going to the Jets and to the Vikings and yes, handing it to us during the regular season and getting to an NFC title game, with our mortal enemies. But yeah, I would take it if that meant we get to the show and we bring Lombardi home. I'd sit through it. At this point, there's no love lost for me with Aaron, and honestly, this league now, you really don't see guys play their whole career in one spot anymore. It's kind of kind of a antiquated mentality to think that someone's going to get drafted by a team and, play 17, 18, 19, 20 years. Some of these guys in one spot, it just doesn't happen very often anymore. I'd be willing to sit through it. I don't think it would be too traumatizing. Yeah,
to know there's a Lombardi on the backside, absolutely. Yeah. That's what was so traumatizing about the Favre thing, was like, he's going to win a damn Super Bowl with the Vikings. And luckily it didn't happen. That New Orleans game happened, which is awesome, which Brett commented on the whole Bounty Gate thing here recently. I don't know if you've seen that, Tim. That was interesting. Oh. He wasn't like upset about it. He's like, hey, man, that's football. They did what they had to do. It was that kind of a problem. Like, God, I love that.
That's old school right there.
Old school.
He said, hey, Brett, what'd you think of Sean Payton? And Brett's like,
he was the best guy around.
What Bounty Gate? Coach Lynn says lots of symbolism in the halftime show yesterday. Yeah, Coach, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand what you're talking about, but based off of the people that were calling me a racist because I didn't like the show, there had to be another underlining something there that I didn't fully understand. So I would say you're probably right there. That was wild reaction just to saying, I didn't like that one. Not that good. Prince in the chat says Rodgers to the Raiders. That'd be interesting, boy. That'd be really interesting. Rodgers to the Raiders and Tay goes back to the Raiders. Could you imagine that? Lord have mercy.
Make me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Nothing would surprise me at this point, man, with the way this season's gone.
Exactly.
Last few seasons. Ron Samuel says, can't find it, fellas. I think it was Facebook. I'll keep looking. Hey, don't worry about it, Ron. It's cool, man. I just didn't know if you know right offhand. That's awesome. I'm sure it was on IG that he responded because, like Tim said, I don't think he's done anything on Twitter in a long time. So, but appreciate you, man. All right, let's see here. Prince says cancel culture comes for Clayton. Circle the wagon, boys. It's wild. It's funny too because I catch it on both sides because you guys know politically I hate politics. I hate both parties, and I catch it from both of them. That's the way that works. But I got broad shoulders. I can handle it, man. It's the way it goes. Yep. I call it like I see it, man. There's crooked ass people on both sides of the aisle, and they don't give a damn about any of us. And all they do is they invest every bit of their time, energy, and effort in dividing us because they know when we're divided as close to 50% as possible, that's when we're the weakest. If we all come together as a nation, we don't have to worry about people dividing us because of race or, economic status or anything else.
Taste in music, whatever.
Exactly.
Like big shocker. Everybody doesn't agree on everything.
Right. That's what makes this country great, man. And it's a country of people from all over the world, that came here legally. Let me say that. They came here, you know what I mean? That this is the tough. Yeah, we shouldn't even be talking about this stuff. I've got friends from other countries who can't get into the country now because we've screwed up our immigration situation so bad over the last however many years that you've got great, honest people who care about other human beings. I'm not talking about criminals who want to come in here and do bad things to citizens. Like, they want to come here because of the American dream that everybody that's probably in the chat, you can look back not too far and see where your ancestors fought their ass off to get out of a bad situation to get an opportunity at a free country. And that's all getting screwed up because our elected officials don't know how to keep that intact. It's just like the same conversation with election integrity and all that. Like it's not just did my guy win? It's we got to all know, hey, all right, man, that's who the country chose. Let's get behind it, no matter which side of the aisle it's on. And we don't have that benefit anymore because everybody's questioning everything constantly. It sucks, man. It sucks.
Clay, you're making sense. Stop, please.
And again, people were so dug in on their side. And this is the thing, man, it doesn't make them bad people. I was raised a way to believe one way. And that way was, listen, Republicans hate us. We're poor. Democrats want to take care of us. And as I got older, I went, whoa. I'm starting to
realize neither one of those things was true.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're just lining their pie. Anyway, it is what it is, man. But just, again, take care of each other. That should be the main message. Let's stop trying to divide and all that. But
amen.